What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. As always, we got my man Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 here doing the thing, producing all the good stuff.
Top of the evening instead of the morning this time.
Yeah. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I mean, this is the first evening episode we've done in quite some time. We usually record like 9 or 10. But today, we have a very special guest here for you. He came in from Austin, Texas today, just for us. Yo. Nothing else. Just kidding, but he's here for business. But hey, we lined it up. My man, Ethan Buck.
Which camera do I look at?
You just look at me, dude. Look at me in the eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't stop anyway.
Yeah. I'm already drawn in.
Here we go.
So, real quick, last time I've known Ethan for a little bit of time. Yeah, we've met once out in Austin, Texas, through our mutual friend Sean Hudson, who was on this podcast earlier this year, or just back in June. He's in a death metal band, all that stuff. And so we went and got a good back day in at this big gym out there. That was the first time I met you, and then we went to a badass concert that evening. I think it was like, what was it, Mayhem, Midnight, some other stuff.
It was, and you introduced me to Ghost energy drinks.
How's it been since?
Good, but it's increased my chest pain and anxiety, but it's fine.
So you had too many right now.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So
He did the exact same thing to me. I never had a ghost before until I started hanging out with this man.
dude, I mean, my bad. So they taste good at least. So
They're excellent.
Worth it.
Be crazy if we could get a sponsorship, you know?
Yeah, I know, guys. Come on. So, so I've known Ethan for a little bit of time. Ethan, welcome, my man.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, give us a little brief description on who you are, what you do, and then we'll take it back, man. We're going to
take it back. Man, I've told my story so many times. But yeah, I own a fitness coaching business.
Okay.
Started out as a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness over 9 years ago now.
Okay.
Ended up doing about 15,000 hours of one-on-one personal training sessions.
There you go.
8 to 9 people a day, 6 days a week, completely burnt out. Hated my life. I had this brilliant plan that I would be the best trainer in the company, and I'd take a 2-hour break and crush a workout. Really what that turned into was I was just taking a nap in a fucking closet and hating my life, or going home and eating cereal and hating my life there too.
Yeah.
Just burnt out.
Yeah.
The company, some of the CEOs, the regional manager came to me one day and said, "Hey, congratulations. You've made a category of top 50 trainers in the company," which at the time there's probably about 7,500 trainers in that company. It's one of the biggest fitness chains in the world. Mm-hmm. And they asked me what I'd like for that. I'm like, good job. What do you want?
Yeah.
That's so good. So I was about to go to Europe with a band I had at the time. And I said that I'd like maybe a week paid time off. If I've done so good, I've generated a certain amount of revenue for you every month for several years now, client retention, session quality, all that kind of stuff. And their response was they laughed at me and slid me a $25 Starbucks gift card across the table.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, okay.
Hell yeah. Hey, dude, I love my vanilla sweet cream cold brew.
It's cool, but, that was a kick in the dick. So,
yeah.
So I was pissed, and they could tell, or we could give you a T-shirt. I was like, I've got a fucking T-shirt.
Plenty of those.
So the next day, I had 19 clients at the time. So the next day, I took 17 of them just to a small gym, private studio. Mm-hmm. And I kind of still had the same problem, right?
Yeah.
Working too much. Money was better because 24 Hour Fitness was taking 66% of what I brought in terms of revenue. So it was all mine technically then.
Yeah.
But I still had the same problem. So I've continuously scaled multiple times in business since then. And I went online fully about 5 years ago, and have just been continuously scaling since then. So now I'm basically kind of in a CEO position of Iron Will PT.
Nice, dude. Yeah, and I see your content all the time. You got some solid stuff.
Thanks.
And then we're going to cover that a little bit more, but you seem to have a lot of knowledge. I love a lot of your content. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I check it out all the time. I'm like, oh, that's good shit, Ethan. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so you're really good with your content, and it cracks me the fuck up too. I'll be honest. So
Gotta add some humor in there. It can't be serious all the time.
dude, we'll get to that more. But so I've been urged to create more content. And I've been getting a little goofier, man. I'm doing my burpees and I'm dancing with them, and I'm just singing and shit. I'm just getting there's a whole backstory in a while. I kind of shelter myself, my personality and stuff, for years, right? Usually other people. But I appreciate that because, like, man, when I do try to record content, I get really serious. It's like you're not like that all the time, Joe. So, dude, I appreciate that big time, and that's something I can learn from. So, and people love that shit too. They like to see that side of you. So, we'll get there. Sounds like you're kicking ass, though. I want to hear more, but we got to take it back, Ethan.
Even further.
We got to go back even further, dude. Back to when you had a binky in or whatever you call those things.
All right. Well,
I call it a mouthpiece for my. I'm like, babe, where's her mouthpiece at? And she's like, you've been boxing this shit too much. But anyways, yeah, take us back, man. As far as you want to go, just tell us about yourself. Let the audience get to know you, and then we'll move forward.
well, I was born at a certain point,
Jeez,
and then for
that's crazy.
I'd say
That's insane.
a year or so, I just ate and shit and cried and slept.
Dude, you're the one. You're like,
This fucking
I can't go back further than that,
yeah.
but that's as far as I can go. So,
Well, yeah, because your past life,
right.
we don't know what that was.
Yeah, I thought I knew, but I don't think I really do. Yeah. No, so around the age of 13 or 14, I really got into the subculture of punk rock, hardcore punk.
What got you into that?
You know, I was like a skater kid, and I came
Yeah.
across like Sex Pistols, Dead Kennedys, that kind of stuff.
How old are you?
42. Dang. Yeah. I know you can't tell. I look like I'm like maybe 22 or something, right?
I mean, you look like maybe you're just I'm 33, man. You might be. I'm like, dude, you may be 35.
Oh, sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, good job, man. Good job.
Thank you.
The bald.
Said the same thing, yeah.
It's all in the mustache. Yeah, but no. I mean, you're kicking ass. But I'm just wondering because I used to listen to punk, but it was more so like my punk. It
Right.
wasn't the same. So
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, so I got into that, and that's a real subculture. I'm not talking like mall punk, like Hot Topic type of shit.
Yeah.
Radio stuff, Rancid or Green Day. I'm talking like the real stuff, the origins of punk rock. And as fun as it was, it's a super subculture. You develop these ideologies, and especially at that age when you're a young teenager, early 20s, you've got these ideologies. You're going to change the world, and your favorite bands are telling you what to think and all that kind of stuff, and you agree with them, and it's cool. I mean, actually, honestly, my foundational ideologies come from punk rock.
Yeah.
Right? They've changed a little bit over the course of time because I'm a grown man now.
yeah, of course. What would you say those foundational ideologies would be?
Thinking for yourself, questioning things.
Hell yeah.
Asking the right questions.
Those are good lessons.
Yeah, not just going along with the crowd.
Fuck yeah.
Oddly, that crowd goes along with the crowd now. Right?
Yeah.
So I got into that, and I started playing in bands really early. And my mom's British, so we grew up back and forth between Oregon and Britain.
Okay.
So I went on my first European tour with my band, when I was like 16.
Okay.
And since then, I was on tour like multiple times a year.
So you were touring Europe at 16.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
What was that like?
It was interesting because for me, punk in the States and Britain was like fun. And then certain parts of Europe, like Germany and like Belgium and Sweden, they're really super serious with all these politics and rules and stuff.
God, I remember you told me this one story that was crazy. There was like this brawl or some kind of like battle broke out at some place you were playing at. Damn it. I'm trying to remember.
That's happened multiple times.
Yeah, I know. There was one story you told me specifically. Damn it, I wish I could click on it. Anyways,
Well,
feel free
I'm
to
sure-
share or whatever.
Yeah. So it was eye-opening because you got to see the real political side of punk in certain areas, and
Yeah.
then you got to see the really fun side of it, right?
Yeah.
And how certain countries it's different. Like there was like squatters' rights in some places, so you could go and you'd play an abandoned building that people have taken over, and they have the right to do whatever they want with it, and they're active with it. It's not like just a bunch of junkies hanging out there. They're doing stuff. Right?
Yeah.
They're cleaning it up. They're running kitchens. They're doing concert shows and movie nights and workshops and stuff.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So I did that for years, and eventually I moved to Prague in Czech Republic and lived there for 11 years. And I was kind of like the main promoter, concert guy for multiple years for that specific genre of like hardcore punk.
Mm-hmm.
I did festivals. I worked the festivals. I set up tours for bands. I was touring with my band, so I was on the road a lot. If I wasn't on the road with my band, I was like roadieing for another band. And when you go on like say a 45-day tour with a punk band,
Yeah.
you're playing every night.
Yeah.
And your downtime is literally being hungover and sleep deprived in the van, sleeping upright. And then you show up at a show, usually too early. You know, sound checks at 5 and you show up at 4:30 and no one's there. And you wait for 5 hours and there's no sound check anyway. It's just bullshit.
You just got to play it.
Yeah. So, you know, people are happy that you're in their town. So they want to party with you. And you're young and you're dumb and you want to party. So you do that 45 nights in a row. And if you're lucky, you get to maybe curl up in a ball on someone's kitchen floor while everyone's doing cocaine and drinking around you.
Oh my God.
And then, you know, in Europe you get fed at least, but it's you know, vegan rabbit food and it's gross for the most part. There were some really good spreads though. Sometimes I shouldn't say that. There's some really good spots. So you're not eating well typically, and you're just doing that. So you come home, you've quit your job if you had one in the first place.
It's just alcohol, drugs.
Yeah, loose women,
whatever,
fights.
food. Just all the good stuff.
Yeah, you're this fake rock star, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm a rock star. I'm like, but I have holes in my shoes and I literally don't have any money. So
hell yeah,
I
made it.
Yeah. My band takes me places, man. That was the attitude. So you come home, and if you had a job, you had to quit it to go on your stupid tour, which was fun. It's an experience. I shouldn't complain. I complain about it, and then I'm grateful for it at the same time.
Yeah, I get that.
So you've got these like kind of drug and alcohol problems. You're going through withdrawals. You've been through all this stimulus. You're kind of like a popular guy for a second, and then you come home, you're a nobody, and you're just like, you got withdrawals, and so you continue those habits.
Yeah.
So it just turned into this lifestyle where I knew it was killing me.
So it's just a cycle over and over again.
Perpetual cycle, and lots of violence, drugs, alcohol, and some even kind of gang violence to a certain degree. So around 28, I started getting like massive panic attacks.
So this was for how long? From 16 to 28?
I would say 16 was the touring, but I started drinking and partying at like 14.
Ooh.
Yeah. And not just like, it was like party till you're homeless style.
Oh yeah. See, my partying for me started in high school, but I was like 15, 16, you know, it was at their football game, you know, it's like, it was typical, right?
Yeah.
So your shit was a whole nother level.
Yeah. To the point that it was, I mean, I was homeless a couple times and found myself eating dog food one day in a meth house that I was living in.
God.
So that was kind of my rock bottom where I was like, oh, I should probably do something about this. This is not cool.
Dude, that's, I don't know. That's a hard thing to imagine. It's a tough place to be in.
Yeah.
And how old were you at that time?
Dog food incident, I was probably like 24. So it took me a few years to get away from it. By the time I was 28, I ballooned up to 320 pounds.
Fuck, dude.
And prior to that, I'd been as small as 165 at 6'3".
Jesus.
Holy shit.
Up and down.
Yeah, it's cool. Total opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So when I stepped away from like the party life, I still had a band that was reasonably active, but it was hard to kind of go back to playing those shows and being on tours. Like it just didn't feel right anymore. It wasn't my calling. I'd seen it, done it, you know, I felt like I conquered that arena.
It kind of brought you back to that place too, you know?
Yeah. I'm just sitting here like, I just want to get fucked up, but I know I'm going to regret it. Like I shouldn't be doing it. So it's just all this like chaos, you know, triggers essentially.
Yeah.
So I eventually just quit all that, but you know, I went from 320 to 185 and I ended up like really skinny fat, right? Technically it's called sarcopenic obesity. You're under muscled and you have a high body fat percentage. So you're a smaller version of your previous fat self, right? And that's the worst place to be in.
Like a dad bod.
Yeah. You can be overweight and lose weight. That's nothing compared to getting out of this skinny fat trench, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're just skinny and you just want to gain muscle, awesome, right? But if you're fighting both battles at once, you this perpetual battle. Do I get lean? But what about my Skeletor body? I have zero muscle, right?
Yeah,
Do I build muscle? But then I need to bulk, and then I'll get fat, and you have this tremendous fear that you've just lost a bunch of weight. So I struggled there for a long time, and that's when I hired my first coach.
About what year was this?
Man, this was, I think actually Facebook reminded me of it yesterday. It was like 12 years ago.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So that's when I hired my first coach. I'd seen him at a 24-hour fitness I went to. And he kind of like mentored me through this process as a coach should, but he was like, hey, you ever thought about doing this as a career? You're like, see, you're talking to your friends, you're helping your friends with it. You're really passionate about it. And I was like, whoa, what? I could do. it's your job. I guess I could do it too, right? I mean, I was working as like a cook or something,
Yeah.
a bar back. And so he mentored me through that. He took me to seminars, gave me things to study.
Of course.
And now he works for me, which is super cool.
Interesting. That's pretty badass. So he's part of your team.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I became a trainer at 24 and then, just got into like lifting more and understanding my body and nutrition better before I became a trainer. And just since then, I've been like studying, getting certificates and then scaling business. And so that's the backstory.
The backstory, man. There's so much you could probably cover in that journey too, of the punk rock and everything.
Yeah, I've done whole episodes of podcasts on just Ethan's heyday stories.
So it wouldn't hurt if you just maybe elaborated on that a little bit. Yeah, and just in some of it, just so people can get more of a deeper perspective and understanding of that world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you'd like to.
Absolutely. So
Also, if I can just throw this in there, like the switch in between Britain and America, like as you were growing up, I would love to hear that, like kind of how that experience was. As well.
Yeah. So it is an interesting change because culturally it's different. And this was the 80s. So it wasn't, internet era. We're not up to date on each other's pop cultures and all that kind of stuff. Right. So going to school there, I would go there from here with an American accent and just get the shit kicked out of me all the time. Like kids hated Americans. We lived in a small town in Aberdeenshire called Aboyne, which is, you've heard the Dinny Stones before?
Yes.
That's where the Dinny Stones are from, by the way.
Interesting.
Donald Dinny was from that town and the oldest running Highland games were on a football pitch, a soccer field that I would play with my friends on. I could see from my bedroom window.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, obviously history is different. So you learn different things in school there. And so I just did terrible in school my whole life because I would go there, we'd go there, and then we'd come back and I would lose a couple of years of school here, but I learned stuff there and I come back and I have a Scottish accent and everyone loved me. Right?
So how
Because
often were you there a lot, like for long periods of time?
Yeah, a few years each time. The last time we moved there, I was 15. So that was 96. And I'd lived there from probably 96 to 99, 2000 before I moved to Czech. So
that's a pretty interesting dynamic as a kid, like going from America to here, back and forth. Like that's wild. I don't know anybody else that's had kind of that.
Uncle's son is his one of his ex-wives. His son did the same thing. He mostly grew up in England, but he's from here, and like now he goes to college here. He goes to MTSU actually.
Oh
so
yeah,
super interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference, and it was difficult, like trying to find out, like, do I speak this way? And then even later when I was older, I would say early 20s, every time I went back to Britain, I'm like, should I speak like this so I don't get beat up? It was just like this trauma,
Yeah,
kind of weird. Or if I wanted to feel accepted if I like spoke to Americans, should I speak to Americans like that so they like me? It's just you just grow up that way. It's what you're programmed to do as a kid.
You're just like, who am I?
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
British or
That's
freaking
that's gotta be tough.
Yeah, but just kind of hybrid, I guess. But
yeah,
you grow out of it. So in terms of punk rock stories, man. I mean, I used to play this game. Name a European country, and I'll tell you a story from it. Most likely,
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Okay.
I was thinking something. Yeah, go for it.
Hey, that's even an A too. So I just went alphabetical. No, it's just the first thing that came up. Yeah, please.
I don't think there's any Z European. No, there's not. By the way, I'm hearing myself cut out in these headphones. Is that okay?
You shouldn't be.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
Okay.
You guys can't hear yourself?
I haven't heard him cut out.
I just hear myself occasionally cut out.
Oh. I think I know what you're talking about. You should be okay.
Okay, cool. So Amsterdam. Well, okay. The first time I went there, I had this friend named Allard. Allard was my age, but he had a mustache and like a 3-foot mohawk. And he'd come to Edinburgh to hang out with us and come to shows and festivals and stuff. So I got to know him. I was like, hey, I want to go to Amsterdam sometime. So yeah, come stay with me and my family. Right? He was 16 or something. So he lived with his family. So I took a bus there. And I got there really early in the morning, and I didn't want to wake him up. I had like a phone card. There was no cell phone. Nobody had phones back then. It's not, I don't know, 95 or something, 96. And I didn't want to wake him up because I was there at like 5 in the morning or something. But there was this coffee shop open that sold space cakes, right? Just like a weed brownie. And I smoked weed all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But this was just like a brutal trip. It was like insane. And I think it was probably the only time I really had culture shock, and I really shouldn't have, because Amsterdam's not that different from Britain, you know. But the language and foods and smells and stuff, it kind of tripped me out as I'm like just sitting there tripping at this train station by myself at like 6 a.m.
God bless.
There's like a woman selling like these newspapers, like yelling something in Dutch. I'm just like just laughing at her, like So anyway, Allard shows up, and it's like he's probably hasn't even had coffee yet. And everyone rides those old school bicycles in Amsterdam, right?
Nice.
Everyone rides. He shows up on a bicycle, and he's got one for me. So he like rode a bicycle and then brought his brothers or something.
Like, check this out.
Yeah, he's like, I got a bike for you, and I'm just like, I can't handle this. This is brutal. So I remember trying to follow him, but he just kept getting further and further. I was like, I don't even think I'm going anywhere. I'm just like standing on this bike, and I'm imagining myself riding with him.
Damn, how strong was this space cake?
Yeah, it was brutal. I was like tripping balls.
I mean, was
Yeah,
it just like
dude.
a really strong edible, or do you think there was something else in it?
I think probably just a really strong edible.
Dude, you know what? I tell you what, like some edibles will put you in a place.
A lot of these stories
strong
are from
enough.
edibles.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So keeping in mind, I'm a fat, like 16-year-old punk rock kid. I've got a studded leather jacket, massive charged hair, bullet belt, boots, like pants with zippers on them, knees torn out. And I'm going to my friend's parents' house, right? It's like 6:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I can't handle this. And he's like, come on, what's wrong with you? He didn't know I was all fucked up. So next thing you know, I'm in their parents' house, and they're like, welcome guests, and they have this nice spread of like good food and stuff. And they're like trying to get to know me. I just can't stop laughing at them. And then I don't remember anything. I woke up on their couch 18 hours later.
Oh, Lord.
And it was like the middle of the night. And I was looking for the bathroom. I was like, okay, I know I'm at Allard's house, but like, where do I find the bathroom? I walked into his parents' room, and they kept their bikes on the ceiling. They had these hooks on the ceiling to be out of the way, and it freaked me out. I thought I was upside down or something. I'm like screaming in his parents' room.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Good
this is
first
my
impression.
Yeah.
That's funny.
They're like Americans are the best.
Yeah. And so there's a squat there. There's multiple squats. There's tons of squats in Amsterdam, especially at that time. But there was one that was a movie theater.
What's a squat?
Well, I want to know what he said. What did
yeah.
your friends say though? Like,
I don't
he was like,
remember.
dude, you can't come back. My parents are like done with you.
I don't even remember. I think he probably pawned me off at the squat, to be honest.
Oh, he was like, I'm done.
That's actually, you know what? That's probably why we went there.
That's probably exactly where the next story starts.
Yeah, welcome home.
So you're asking what a squat is. Like in the States, it's an empty building, and like degenerates take over it, and it's just like junkies, right? In Europe, they're productive. They do concerts, they do workshops. People do things. It's like a community, and there's rights there. In some countries, if you stay in a building long enough and you're productive with it, you clean it up. The city just says, okay, it's yours. Okay. For a certain period of time, until money comes into play and someone wants to buy it, then they'll
Do something with it, yeah.
yeah. So there's a squatted movie theater, and they still have like popcorn and Coke and stuff, and movies to watch. And when I was there, it started getting evicted, and it was like this massive riot. I mean, like really violent, like cops with like the water guns and everything, shields. So that was fun. That was like my day 2 of Amsterdam experience.
You're throwing like Molotov cocktails and stuff.
Oh, rocks and bricks and everything.
Nice.
God, bless.
And I don't even know what for. I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like,
I'm here. This is home for me. I'm along with it.
yeah, this looks like an album cover.
I bet it did.
Yeah.
I bet it did.
Dude, that's interesting, man. Like, what crazy experience to have at 16 years old, man. I thought
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Because I don't know anybody else that's kind of had those kinds of experience. And I know. I told him with you coming on. I was telling Lydia. I was like, man, Ethan's got a pretty wild story. Like, he's got a crazy background. He's done a lot of shit. And I mean, you're kicking ass now. So it's very interesting just to hear that kind of stuff. I want to try to think of another country real quick before we get into the next segment.
While you think about it, I do just want to ask you real quick. We got about 5 minutes left. So you were 16 at that age. So what was did your parents know? Were they cool with it? Did they?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, where are your parents?
I asked myself that question, like, why did you let me, what was going on? Because I have an older brother and sister, so I was like the youngest. So I think they were just kind of like, we did fine with them. He'll be fine type of thing. I started like cooking for myself when I was like 8. And I started, going to the city and stuff and, spending the night in town, taking the bus by myself when I was like 12 or 13. So they just gave me the freedom. And I moved out.
Really? Did they just not notice, or?
Yeah, I didn't even live with them in Scotland at the time. I moved out of my parents' house at 15.
was that like a cultural thing at all? Like maybe with your mom being from Britain? I don't know if that's like a thing over there that they're more like.
I think I just kind of proved that I was really self-sufficient. or made it seem like I was at least.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to live at home.
Damn.
That's
That's pretty
wow.
crazy. Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I'm trying to put
We
myself
were,
there.
we were just talking about my story earlier. You were talking about the geographical difference. It's crazy because yours is 1,000 times different, and it's kind of the same thing too. I kind of was talking about overexposure as a young kid, too much freedom as a young kid, and yours is like kind of the same thing, but 1,000 times greater. It's like,
yeah.
holy shit.
It is pretty cool though, man. And I mean, you're here to tell the tale.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna think of one more spot. Let's see. Let's go a little more east. Let's see Poland.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like you got something crazy from Poland.
Yeah. Plenty of Polish stories. Poland's a really cool country, by the way. Historically, it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
But they're still going. They're super, regardless of what your political views are, a very patriotic nation. And I think that's important for a small nation like that have had their history.
Yeah.
Beautiful women. Like, you go to Poland, you're like, what is going on with the women here? Like,
What is going on?
yeah, like, this is insane. And I think in a lot of places, there's like a 2 or 3 to 1 ratio to like female to male.
Interesting.
So ugly Americans, if you're want to get a hot woman, you just move to Poland.
Move to Poland. Hang out. Join a punk band, move to Poland, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
like punk rockers?
Probably not. Yeah.
You would know. So
And you don't want like the punk women there, the piercings all over their face and tattoos. And
yeah.
you know, like too much.
Yeah, to each their own, but
It's too much. It's like you can take a pretty woman and you know, she looks like she fell face first into a tackle box. You know, it's just like that's too much.
yeah, come on now. We're not going bass fishing.
Yeah. I mean, 1 or 2 here and there, some tattoos, of course. Like I've got, we've all got tattoos,
course.
right? But when it's like just everything, like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyhow, man, Poland is also at the time a very violent place. There's a lot of football hooligans there, and some of them are very political extremists on both ends of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine which ones hated people like me, right? So we had a lot of encounters with them, got chased down streets and things like that. But one terrible story that comes to mind is I wasn't at this particular spot, but when it happened, but I was a second time. So there was one punk band from Britain on tour there, and their bass player went off with like these 2 chicks, and the band was just like, he just hooked up with a girl, whatever. But he showed up decapitated,
What?
and it turns
Wait,
out
what?
That took
Yeah.
a total fucking. I was like,
Yeah,
not thinking, whoa.
very stabby, like terrible kind of football hooligan mugging.
Okay, so you said that a second ago. What does that mean? Football hooligan?
So soccer hooligans,
Okay,
like
that's what I'm-
fans. Yeah. So each
You haven't seen that stuff?
No, like, what do you
Okay, so each
crazy.
particular team, especially in Europe, they'll have these like hardcore ultra fans that they're super violent, right?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't dude, I follow
swear-
that shit. They're
I mean,
nuts
listen,
still, man.
I knew a lot of those guys in Czech Republic.
There's still some big stuff going on. This episode is brought to you by Relentless Pursuit. Check us out at relentlesspursuitlifestyle.com, where you can access everything, apparel, the podcast, the Patreon account at patreon.com/The Relentless Pursuit Podcast, which it has exclusive episodes and Q&A, exclusive apparel and stuff like that. We also have training, everything under the sun, pretty much, right? And you can also check us out on Instagram at relentless_pursuit and at relentless_pursuit_HQ. And for all the podcast content that's going to be coming up from past episodes, it's going to be the RP_pod. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Cool.
Pass it on to you.
Yeah, if you want to check us out, Iron Will PT is my brand, an online coaching brand. We specialize in helping primarily busy men lose weight within about 90 days without having to sacrifice their favorite foods or hours of their valuable time in the gym. You can check us out at iron_will_PT on both Instagram and Twitter.
That was good.
Sustainable approach to fat loss. That's what we do. No fad diets, no gimmicks, no copy paste bullshit. Just actual value to real people who struggle with their health and fitness.
But even diet, like sustainability. Yeah, my coach had me do keto, and then I started doing this. And I'm like, yeah. Ask yourself this: are you willing to eat keto for the rest of your life? If you're going to follow it to a T, are you going to do that?
Blank stares.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, what can you sustain for the rest of your life? Like personally, me, I can do animal based. I can have a day where I enjoy some donuts and I can do a couple cheats, but I understand my body and myself, and I know what I can sustain, throughout the rest of my life. But, keto is something you got to be like dedicated to, and, certain extremes like that. So
any diet for that matter, a training modality, there's peaks and valleys with training, you should be in a peak phase, every several months or weeks, if you're conditioned for it.
Yeah.
But you don't start out that way, right?
No.
You don't go to the gym and just slap on, a barbell on your back and see what you got. There's so many like stability components and movement components that you need to understand and hone in before you get into that shit.
Yeah, we could talk about that stuff all day. I mean, like, we got to get your core strength up, Let's say, I'm a big person, like landmine squats. That's a good segue into those. But we'll talk about that another time, or honestly later in this episode.
Decapitation.
And, it's wild you said that. I wasn't going to almost said funny. It's not funny. It's fucked up. But there's actually a band by the name of Decapitated from Poland. Death Metal. You know them?
I'm pretty sure I've heard of them.
Yeah. I saw them play in Nashville several years ago. Yeah. And then they're called Decapitated.
Yeah.
And like it made me think of that.
Oh yeah.
In Poland, but maybe there was some kind of relation there. Maybe they knew the guy. I don't know.
Maybe.
It was his cousin.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I can ask him. But dude, that's wild. So the guy showed up with no head.
In an alley, yeah. Just that band was called Dog on a Rope. From England. And so I wasn't there. That wasn't my personal experience, but that's like the most brutal one. And it was known amongst the kind of like the punk community is a pretty international, tight niche community. You know each other, right? You go somewhere, you know people, and you're good, right? You get like a network. So that was a scary thing because at the time there were a lot of these like football hooligans, soccer hooligans, and Nazi skinheads like terrorizing people and fucking them up and killing them.
Just for the hell of it.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you. So, like, you were talking about how they're ultra fans. Is it like, are they doing all this out of spirit for their team?
So
like, would it be like an NFL fan, like just going and murdering like the opposing fans?
There's this dynamic between teams that they'll meet up and then they'll agree to like fight each other in a certain area a lot of the times, and sometimes it's like 50 on 50 or 10 on 20. It doesn't really matter, and they have this kind of thing like, okay, we did the thing, and then we just move on. But when there's the added element of hatred in politics between, like say like a really, I hate using these terms because of modern day politics, like the term Nazi and like far right gets used far too loosely.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like the actual legitimate
definition,
like swastika wearing, stab you in the face, 6 foot jacked dudes, right?
Yeah.
That like really believe in their politics, right?
Yes.
And they want to kill you.
Yeah, it's used very loosely for like anybody that's like, just right over the hump here in America, right? But over there, it means something.
It means something.
Yeah, they take that shit serious.
And it was a serious problem.
Yeah.
I knew guys that got killed by those guys, right? And they tried to kill me multiple times. So when it comes to those types of football hooligans and then someone like me, where they just see like this spiky-haired degenerate like punk kid, that they want to get me out of their town.
Oh yeah, they're like, we hate your kind. We hate your kind.
Yeah, like you are not welcome here. And we're gonna make you feel that.
What was it about that? What you were that generated that kind of hatred?
Just being like a degenerate, but also probably, a lot of people from my background consider themselves to be like anarchists and things like this, which is, a fun ideology to have when you're a kid, but they really hate that, right? And they probably saw us as like communists, and they're really anti-communist and all this kind of stuff.
Because the people that you would describe as a Nazi are on the opposite end of that spectrum, right? They're all the way up, on the right, where anarchist is all the way on the left. So that's like antithetical to like their whole existence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Plus, we just looked like probably terrible to them. It's like ew, begging for change or something at a train station.
Color in your hair and the spikes.
Yeah.
What's his face? Was a 3-foot mohawk?
Yeah. Allard. Yeah.
Does this remind you? I'm kind of looking like.
Oh, it was.
I'm just kidding. Should I do it? 3 foot? I'm going for it.
Nah, it's too much work.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's a lot of effort. But dude, that's it's pretty crazy. So, and I've seen videos. Like I don't know. I see stuff all on the internet, man, and like I'm on like Telegram and whatnot, right? And so you can see just shit like this going on all over the place. Like these groups are still out there, getting a little wild, getting a little rowdy. Like it's still a thing. I don't know if it's as extreme as it was then, but I feel like there probably is some dudes that are all about it. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad brawls just recently on video. I'm like, damn, these guys are nuts. All for the love of soccer.
Yeah, there's something about it I actually enjoyed though, because it's very tribal and there's that gang warfare, and you're a young, pissed off dude with no fucking future. You're from a piece of shit town. There's nothing going on, like a steel factory.
Yeah.
That's your future.
It gives you something
purpose.
to get fired up about.
Yeah.
In community.
And you're full of testosterone. You're with your tribe, your buddies. Let's go fuck up those guys. Right? It makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
To some people, it won't. But if you're a young, angry dude with nothing ahead of you in life, it makes perfect sense. And I knew a lot of those guys, and I wasn't really involved into like the soccer, football matches, but sometimes I'd go with them to those fights. It was a thrill.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's like this kind of unspoken code where it's like blood and bone. You're on the ground. Nobody's gonna fuck with you. There's no weapons, right?
Yeah.
But when there was like the political ones, that's where like the deaths would happen. The first one I saw was in front of a football stadium, a soccer stadium, and you've got cobblestone streets. You know, they're 500-600 years old, maybe 1,000 years old. And the police showed up, and they're like, "All right, well, we can't stop it, but you have to take your shoes off." Because a lot of them were wearing like boots, like steel-toed boots.
Yeah, don't mess our cobblestones up.
Well, they didn't want people getting kicked in the face with steel-toed boots.
Yeah, okay.
So
I thought it was that too, though. To be fair.
don't hurt our stones with your shoes, guys.
Or your face.
These are
Yeah.
historical, guys. Come on.
Yeah. No. So there's these like piles of shoes and boots, and these maniac football hooligans kicking the shit out of each other barefoot on these like old cobblestone streets and like tram tracks and stuff.
They would have like, man, what a scene.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be a painting.
Yeah, a thrill.
Yeah,
It's a
it
thrill.
sounds like a thrill. I mean, honestly, though, like, hell, I mean, to me, it sounds like you take away all the political, like, we're trying to kill you. You know, you take away that kind of stuff. But if you're just like,
Sounds
you
like
got
fun.
your boys that you get along with, and then they got their boys,
Right.
and you're just meeting up to punch each other in the head.
Right.
Like, that sounds kind of like a good time.
I knew where you were going with that, dude.
Like, even I'm not even angry and pissed off, but like, you know, I get a little fired up sometimes. You know, I'm got a lot of stress, got a lot going on. Like, I'd love to get beat up with another group of people and just say, hey, let's just brawl for a minute and then go our separate ways.
I think it's been a part of growing up for young men for a long time, and now it's just looked down upon because it's mean and barbaric. And
Well, it's like
hurts.
people like I do like some underground bare knuckle fights, right? And people are like, that's just so insane. I'm like, but is it? Like,
Yeah.
what? I'm not like punching somebody in the back of the head in the middle of the street. Like, I'm meeting up with another dude that wants to fight, and we're having a good time. And afterward, we have some drinks or whatever, and and hanging around a fire. Like, it's actually a really fucking fun. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think, but a lot of people just can't understand that concept. But it's all stems from, you know, generations ago.
Yeah.
You
part of
can't
who we
really
are.
play football anymore because it's too dangerous, you know?
Yeah. And then there's the dark side. There's the guys that take it too far. And you mentioned that one particular story.
Yes. Yeah. So we were talking about, like, I remember you telling me a story a while back, and that was pretty insane and affected your life tremendously.
Yeah.
So feel free to share that with us.
All right. So this was probably my 6th month after I'd moved to Prague, in Czech Republic.
Okay.
Keeping in mind, this was 8 years after the fall of communism. So relatively new to the Western world.
Yeah.
For a country and a society. Yeah. And I was going to a show at a bus stop with a buddy of mine. And I started picking up Czech pretty quick. I have an ear for languages. I have a tongue for languages. So I started picking up the language pretty quick. And I'm looking at like this tram time, like to see what time the tram goes with the gig space. And I notice this kind of circle forming around me and my buddy. And he's talking to this one dude, and he's just talking through his teeth, the guy.
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was. I could tell he was pissed. I looked at my friends like, what's this guy want? Like a cigarette or something? The next thing I knew, just boom, fist. And I looked up, and there's like 10 dudes just boot party on us. I tried to get up, and they have these at these tram and bus stops. They have these like metal trash cans that probably were like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Just jagged, old, been there since the 70s. Like the Russian communists probably just set them up. They built the whole metro system and everything there, right? Hungary and every country in the East that have like a metro system, it's built by the Russians during the communist era, Soviets. So I try to get up, and this one dude just picks up that garbage can, slams it in my back, and fucked my back up. I got a concussion. And for some reason, they stopped and they got on the bus. And when they were leaving, they opened the window and said, "Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back." And I'm like, why the fuck would they do that and come back? That makes no sense.
Well, they're going to get like a snack.
Yeah, what a weird threat. Like,
Well, here's why. So that particular spot, it's called Karlovo na Městí. Okay, it's a Charles Square. It's a cross section where trams, buses, and the underground meet. So lots of traffic, lots of places to go and get to from there. Okay. And I ended up living pretty close to it. So I had similar incidences at this same exact spot multiple times. And by the way, have you ever heard of Anthropoid?
No.
Anthropoid was a British mission. They came in through parachutists came in, and it was only like 6 of them when the Nazis took over Czech Republic, and they were trying to assassinate the Nazi SS leaders, and they got held up in a church there, and they flooded them out and then executed them there. So
At that spot.
At that spot,
Whoa.
and there's still the bullet holes in the wall.
That's nuts.
Crazy story. Anyhow, so it was right there. So I was like, I'm
So
getting
where
beat.
this happened, that's right where that happened?
Yeah, I'm like getting
Oh,
like
shit.
basically like attempted murdered by Nazis at this spot where they murdered British.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
what's
they're
happening?
from Britain. I'm like, oh my
I
God.
read about this.
Yeah, what is the world?
In that moment, he's like,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of crazy.
So those guys took off on the bus. I'm like, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. My friend's like, yeah, they're just bluffing. Well, next thing you know, we're above a metro station, right? So these what do you call them? Escalators coming up. One on our side, one on the other side of the street, and you can just hear just this like tribal chanting of like dozens of dudes in the underground, and they're banging bats, pipes on their way up, and I'm like, fuck, we are dead. And you could see one on after another on both sides pop up, and it turned out to be like 50 of them,
God.
and they're just fucking like,
And it's just you and one other guy?
yeah. Some Roma gypsy dudes showed up, and they're like, let's take them, bro. I'm like, we saw what happened. We saw you guys okay? Like, we saw you guys got beat up. Like, let's take those guys on. I'm like, well, thanks. Now there's 4 of us. There's still 50 of them. And they're like, they've got bats and like they're pulling like masks over their face and shit.
What the
Knives.
fuck?
And it was panic mode. We just like took off. And we got some, bumps and scrapes and concussions and stuff like that. But really it just we got away. Like, we got into a tram. And I was like yelling at the tram driver, like, you got to go. I was like, well, I have to wait a few minutes. Like, those guys are going to murder us in your tram. If you don't leave, like, you got to go. So we got away.
Yeah.
But that was my first, like, real, like, near-death experience over there, which that situation was probably the worst. But similar situations happened maybe a dozen times throughout the time that I lived there.
But that was an extreme.
That was an extreme. I was scared to go outside for a while. I was constantly, like, looking over my back. I was, like, jittery and, like, freaking out.
I mean, who could blame you, dude? That's fucking, your whole, you got boot stomped and freaking hit with a trash can. I mean, you could have died in that instance right there. You got hit just right.
Yeah.
And then you just see these guys coming to just really probably take it to another level.
Yeah.
And you barely got away. I mean, that's
Barely
nuts.
got away. We ended up in, like, sticker bushes and stuff. just run. You black out, right? You run. You're just fight or flight.
Yeah.
I just remember at one point I was like stuck in these sticker bushes, like, oh no, they're gonna kill me in these sticker bushes. It's gonna be a nasty murder or whatever.
And there's something to be said about like standing your ground, but like not against 50 people, like
it's just
450. Yeah, like
ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not a fool. Yeah, you still want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is wild, man.
This may be a stupid question, and it may be the same answer that I asked earlier when I asked why they hated you so much. But like, you're fully expecting, like, are they about to fucking group ritual murder you in that moment? Like, is that what was about to happen there? Like, and why? Why? Like, what prompted you to be standing there on the tram, and then the next second, like, 50 dudes are like, they're masked up, fucking like ready to just go nuts like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just so crazy to even try to imagine that scene.
Yeah.
And why they would be prompted to go that, like.
Yeah, the 90s, early 2000s in Eastern Europe particularly were full of these types. And it was known, like, you don't go out on certain days if this team is playing, for example. But even outside of that, they would just go through and like sweep the city and just look for anybody and just clear out the junkies, anyone that's not white, people like me. And they just want to make it known, like, you're not allowed here.
Well, you got like this fresh change in politics. And then but in that change is probably very extreme politics with the people, right? So they're resorting to pretty insane measures to kind of fit their agenda. I mean, like, this is shown over history many, many times, right? They're like, oh, like, we're going to take things at this level. Like, we got to clean up however which way they go, or believe in, right? And so, I mean, it makes a lot of sense as to what they were doing. Like, if you kind of like just look at history, but it's pretty nuts, dude. Like, because you don't see that here. I mean, God, man, the difference between like that and here, like, people would just not be ready in America, like, because it's not near that level.
No.
So, somebody died yesterday at a Patriots Dolphins game. The guy got punched in the. They were arguing. He got punched in the face, and he died. Wow. And like, that's the first time that I can remember that a person died in an NFL game. And so, like, it's crazy you're talking about that back to that, because I'm thinking like that level of stuff happens all the time, and it's like I thought it was crazy that somebody died in an NFL game
it's
yesterday.
normal there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what got me into Muay Thai.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us about that, man. I've seen some pictures of you all tied up.
Yeah. So Muay Thai is like my heart, my sport. Like if I played a sport, it would be Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I mean, I lift weights, I do cardio and stuff, but really like my heart's in Muay Thai, and I have to be careful with it because I don't like want to get really into it and like compete again and stuff. And I'm like, nah, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like jujitsu. You know, you win or lose, you get pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, but these guys, like I said, attacks like that happen multiple times. And every time I did, I started noticing like they're kicking me in the leg or they're kneeing me in the chest or elbowing me in the face or something. And I remember asking some people that had more experience fighting these guys. This is where it started turning into gang warfare, essentially. It's like, what is it that they're doing? Like, I can't figure this out. Like, I just party. I mean, I don't know martial arts. You know, I was like 19. And they're like, oh, it's Thai boxing. I'm like, what? Thai boxing? Okay, so these are like real legit Nazi skinheads that don't like people that aren't like them, but they practice an Asian sport or martial art. And they're like, yeah, it's all Thai boxing, but we practice it too. Come train with us. So I started training with my buddies, and that's how I got into it for self-defense.
Interesting.
I didn't even know it was like a competitive sport yet.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of seeing it for what it was and just, you know, defending myself with it. And then I got into it. And I was on and off, you know, I'd party more and then gain weight, quit Thai boxing and then go back to it every once in a while.
Yeah.
But then that's eventually probably how I lost most of the weight when I was like really fat. Is I went a little too far with Muay Thai, and then eventually I went to Thailand and trained and took some fights back in the States.
So we had a guest. You know, I don't know if you know Tom.
I don't think so.
Tom was on here. Where's Tom at? Tom Billinge, but he's an author. I've known him for quite some time. But what's funny is he's actually from England, so he's got a really thick English accent. And solid guy, writes books. He's been traveling up around India and stuff like that. Doing a lot of like Indo-European like writings and whatnot. But he was in Thailand for quite some time, training and stuff like that. And he had some pretty cool stuff to say about it. I mean, it's a whole culture out there.
Oh, I love Thailand, man.
Yeah, dude. He and I nerded out about it because I was in Thailand for.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent over a little over a month straight there. You know, because I backpacked through Southeast Asia. Back in 2017, you know, staying in hostels and stuff. But I love Southeast Asia. But I always remember seeing like those kickboxing places, the Thai boxing places, you know, like there's usually just like a roof and like some poles, or none of them are really indoors.
Yeah.
And like people are just, it's out in the, you know, you'd be the jungle and like you'll see people just doing some Thai stuff. I'm like, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, one of the places I was training at was just in a small village, and the warm up was like an hour-long run through these fields.
Yeah.
And every field or property had its own pack of wild dogs, and they'd chase you. And then when they got to the other dog's territory, they would back off, and the other dogs would chase you. And you'd see snakes and like pineapple farms and stuff.
It's like a good warm up.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to get bit or by anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm curious. So where all around did you go to Thailand?
I was in Bangkok in a gym called Eminent Air.
Okay.
And then mostly in Hua Hin, or near Hua Hin. It's the south east coast.
Okay.
In a gym called Sit Chao Po. And I did the whole like live in the camp, train twice a day,
Is that
6 days a week.
Is that close to like Phuket or like a little
Other side?
Other side. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, 'cause I went out there. I went to Bangkok, was interesting, and then Phuket and a bunch of the islands, and then up to Chiang Mai and in that area and stuff. So Thailand's the shit, man. I always tell people all the time, like Thailand is one of the coolest countries. Like
I could live there.
Oh, dude, and it's so cheap.
Yeah.
And you can do so much, and everybody's really freaking cool, and there's so much to do. Yeah. I love Thailand. Yeah.
And you think you know Thai food here? There's no.
Well, one of my favorite stories. I'm like, dude, you're walking down the street in Thailand, and it's like for like 90 US cents, you get like this plate of fresh, pad Thai, and it's like, hell yeah, man! Like, get some for everybody on the street. You know what I'm saying?
Did you get a chance to try the fermented pork? You'd remember if you did.
I don't think I did get to try it. Was it good?
Man, it freaked me out. So, they call white people farang there. It's kind of like gringo, right?
I never caught on to that.
So,
maybe I heard it at some point and I was like, okay.
Well, I learned it in the Thai camp, in the Muay Thai camp.
He's like, what's weird? I just thought that was their nickname for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in the Muay Thai camps, they don't even try and bother you learning your name. They just call you, hey, white, like, hey, farang. And then the black dude, like, hey, black. You know, they don't care. They're just, but so I found this dish, and it's just this fermented pork. And I remember being like, it's kind of sketchy. I feel a little weird about it because it's basically this minced raw pork wrapped in a banana leaf and left out in the sun for like 8 months. And it becomes like a cheesy consistency, and you can taste the probiotics. It's almost bubbly. It's almost like kombucha, but like in pork form. And I remember I bought it, and I asked the dude, was like, hey, is it okay for farangs to eat this? Is it like, basically, is it okay for gringos? Because our guts are different, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. He's just basically, don't be a bitch, just eat it. You know? So I ate it. I was like, holy shit, this is like
that good.
Yeah. And apparently it was like a dish they made for royalty, kings and queens, like 1,000 years ago or something.
That's nuts, dude. First of all, I don't know who thought of that dish.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, think about that. Think about the
That's a good
process of
idea.
that. The first time it happened.
Well, I did. We were talking with you. Said they had the 7-Elevens everywhere.
Yeah.
You ever have a toasty?
Yeah.
The toasties, bro.
Yeah.
Tom and I were talking about how just great toasties are for the price, and they just heat it up for you. Something that we don't have here.
7-Eleven in Asia is actually a quality store.
Dude,
I was about to ask you, you're talking about 7-Elevens in Asia?
Yeah. Dude, there's you don't get fuel there. It's just a little convenience store, and they got the best shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I stopped at 7-Elevens all the time.
The ones in Japan feel like almost like a Whole Foods. And they have a really cool service that if you're traveling Japan, you can drop your luggage off at a 7-Eleven, and then they'll ship it to your next hotel or destination before you even get there. So it'll be like ready by your hotel door with a little note and like a candy on it. What? Like some robot teleported it or something. Japan is mind blowing.
Yeah,
Dude,
I'd like to get to Japan at some point.
I was about to say, dude, you're going to have a hard time. I'm itching to be like, tell me about Japan, but I'm sure, Jay, you had something else you were going to.
Yeah, did you spend some time in Japan?
Like maybe like 20 days or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you've been a little bit all over the place, man. All over Europe, and,
40,
a little bit.
45 countries, I think.
Yeah.
45.
Yeah. I mean,
Just one last question about that particular thing I was thinking earlier is like if you'd asked even like somebody here if they, if you said if you had a band or you were an artist or whatever and you had toured or performed in multiple states, like that would be relatively normal. But if you said like, hey, I've traveled to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 countries, much less like all of Europe and had the experiences you've had, it'd be like, damn, dude, like you're fucking out of this world successful. So like, is it relatively normal to just like in that culture to travel in that way to tour, or is that?
It is, and it's funny because people are like, oh, you've seen the world. I'm like, look, I saw it hung over from a fucking van.
Yeah.
And I just partied at like a bar or a squat, and then maybe saw parts of the town if we had some time. Maybe I got beat up at the border by some cops, or I had to bribe them.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe we got attacked. Right. We saw it in a way. I'm actually really grateful for it because it's a way that like only 99.99% of the population can even fathom. Right. Yeah. I play the tour of the world. Like, oh, you must have seen some amazing things. Like, I smelled my buddy's farts for a fucking month.
I don't even remember half. If there wasn't anything amazing, I probably was blacked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean,
So that is relatively normal for musicians, like in Europe, to just travel country to. It's probably because all those countries are kind of like state, not exactly the same.
I mean, we from Prague to Berlin's like 2.5 hour drive.
Right.
Sometimes you're the next half-hour drive. You're in a different country, currency, culture, language.
well,
Yeah, it's pretty normal.
and one thing I've noticed, and like just being a metal fan, like these bands come here to the U.S. and they're not selling out massive arenas, right? So these, like some of my favorite bands will come play from Europe and stuff, and they'll tour for a month or two, and they're playing every night or every other night, and like you got to keep going somehow, and like I know that's a big part of it. Is just like you got to do what you can to keep rolling,
You
and
got
it's
expenses.
nonstop. Yeah, there's expenses, and it's not the easiest route to go. Like you're not, like I said, you're not massive selling out all these selling $1,000 tickets like some of these artists are. You're doing it for the love of it, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's no money in it.
And there's not a lot of sightseeing, And that's why I'm one of those people. I'm like, I got to make sure I buy a shirt or two or something. I like to support people, but
I was gonna say you said that you like that too because those fans are usually super loyal, right? Because
yeah, I'd say so, man. And like, I'd say more like, because punk and especially that kind of punk to that degree and like black metal, right? They don't have big fan bases, especially in the States. So yeah, you get people that listen to that kind of stuff. They're really like dedicated to it.
Yeah.
I'd say.
your average show for us is maybe like 50 people.
Yeah.
Some cities like Berlin, Copenhagen, sometimes like Tampere, Finland was pretty big. Sometimes Prague, maybe 800 or 900 sometimes.
Yeah.
Like pretty good turnouts, but on average, it's like 50 people maybe. And I actually like that more intimate shows where you're kind of like in a tight headquarters, and then you stay, you know, like when you play in like Romania or something, you stay at the promoter's like grandparents' house and they're like cooking you soup and stuff. And you're like, this is
Because of the culture there.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Lydia went to a black metal show with me last year, and, you know, she never listened to that kind of music, but she listened to it for me. So she went. I don't know if you've heard of Rotting Christ and like,
Oh, yeah, I love them.
Oh yeah, well, you know Rotting Christ. I know you listen to all that stuff, but Rotting Christ was like Rotting Christ, Bort Nagar, a couple other people. She went, and it was in Nashville, and it was like, yeah, it was like 50 people there, maybe like 75. You know, like there's space to move around.
Right.
And like here I am, I'm like, fuck, dude, like these are some of my favorite bands ever. But then like people go to see their favorite band like in different genres. They're paying $1,000 for a ticket. They're lucky if they even get to go.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I paid $25 and I got to see like some of the best, you know, to me. It's just a wild dynamic, man. Like kind of being interested in those kinds of genres of music.
I think general population don't understand that there's whole subgenres of music.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, I know my favorite band. They're my friends.
Yeah.
And I paid $5 to see them. That's all they're at. And they're like, what? Are they on MTV? I'm like, no, you don't get it. Rotting Christ, I just actually wrote with them because I was just in England. And I was telling my wife, we were listening to Rotting Christ when I was driving. That Heretics album, that's fucking
Dude, it's
killer.
so good,
It's
man.
Such a good album.
God, they're so good.
And I was like, you know what? I've seen them, but I'd love to see them on home turf in Greece. I like Greece. I was like, it'd be awesome.
I'd love to see them play out there too.
So I like Google searched, and turns out they were playing in Thessalonica in northern Greece. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
So I wanted to stop in Britain, see some family. And so I wrote them. I was like, hey, I found like this date that you're playing in Thessaloniki, and your website says this date. The festival says this date. Which one is it? Because I'm going to fly there from Texas. And the response was like, I don't know, man. Just show up. We'll hang out. Here's my phone number.
No shit.
I was like, well, that's really cool, but I want to come see the band. I want to make sure. It's like,
Yeah, like I'll save your number, but also when are you playing?
Yeah, like details.
and then the guy, he wrote back. He's like, that's not the best show to see the band. You don't really want to see them. So just call me when you get here. I was like, listen, I'm coming to see like the show. Like, I'm sure you're a cool guy. I want to hang out with you.
Who was it you were in contact with?
Makis. I don't know.
Okay.
Maki. And he just wasn't getting it. He's like, well, you know, the promoters, they kind of suck. We're not too happy about playing this show. I was like, do you want people to come to the show? Look, I'm telling you, I'm flying from Texas to come see your band. And it was cool, but I didn't go. I was like, yeah, that's a little scary. Because my experience playing in any southern country, by the way, like Mexico or the Mediterranean, it's the same like mañana attitude. Like, it'll happen. Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Right?
So he was very much like that with them.
Yeah, you're like, look, you remember when you agreed to put a show on for us, and like, you know, you gave us the directions.
What time was that exactly?
And they're like, oh, that was today. I'm like, motherfucker, like we drove here from like
That's so
another country to play. Oh yeah, it'll probably happen. And then like 2:00 in the morning, they just text their friends or something. Like, God, this could have been so much better if you just had your shit together.
You just want to bash your head into a wall. Dude, that's so funny, man.
just chilling outside, just waiting for him. They're like,
Well, shout out to Rotting Christ is one of my favorite bands. I
Oh,
love
great
it.
album. That Heretics album's.
What they've been going, you know, it's cool because some of these bands too, and you know, we're talking about that. Like, you see this band song for $25, you know, and like legends, and so is Bart Nagar in that genre. Lydia's cooking my beef up though for me. She's like, "I got you, honey." I was like, "Thanks." Anyways, what I was saying is you know, I get to see this band and like I just like fucking love all their stuff. They've been playing since '89, and which is quite some time, man, to keep rolling. And their music's just gotten better and better. I think it just gets more epic. And I saw them for $25, man. And I'm like, dude, that's one thing I really appreciate it about that kind of music is just the dedication to what they do.
Yeah.
They're like, they're probably not going to make fucking sell out Bridgestone Arena for $1,000 tickets. But they're still touring longer than probably most of these other groups and bands ever will. And they're putting out quality music and they're just going really hard. And you get to see them for like that kind of price. Like, dude, people don't understand like the magnitude. It's like if you listen to, I don't know, imagine like if
Oh, Drake or
Notorious
something.
Big was around or something like
yeah.
that, right? And he's like,
I said Drake. He said Notorious.
you see,
Let's go.
You know, he started doing his thing, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I saw him for $20." And then 25 years later, you know, probably paying a shit ton for him now. But if you can still see it for $25, I mean, kind of just put that perspective in. I think it's really cool. So.
Well, dude, a perfect tie into both of you is Sean. You were listening to Sean's. That was one of the craziest things I've ever heard. When he was in the military, he bought and was listening to Sean's album.
Oh yeah,
Despair and Sorrow,
and didn't even know him.
right.
Didn't even know him at all.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool.
But you know, you get that, like the whole, like, I think the dedication to it. I don't know. I really appreciate that, man. So
Yeah, and you get to know the bands too. Like
Yeah.
you just find out they're real people. And honestly, I was kind of heading down that path with music too. It was just it's hard. I'm in career mode, right? I'm trying to build a future, and balancing that with a band that's not necessarily going anywhere, but you like it, you're having fun.
Yeah.
It's great, but sacrifices need to be made, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of those people who have those bands, like my ex-bandmates, they don't have much going on outside of that. They've got a job, but they're really active in the music scene. It makes them happy, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like a financially secure future.
yeah, so it's like, what do you want out of life, right?
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how did you transition out of that?
So it was, my last band was called Hell Shock, and it was a difficult transition because I was, like I said earlier, we'd go on tour, and it was kind of like this massive trigger to party and kind of draw me. I just felt like I was going backwards a little bit. And I always kind of joke around in a punk band. I always say, you know, you've made it when you hate your fans. Like you show up and everyone's just like trying to, you know, bother you for free shit, or like spilling beer on your merch or stealing from you, or they're just out of their minds on drugs and alcohol, and like, you're just annoying. You're like, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. And you're not trying to be this super cool rock star. You're just like, look, I'm sober here. Like, this is not fun for me right now.
Yeah.
Just have this weird conversation with you. So yeah, it was just something I couldn't keep up with anymore.
Yeah.
Were you like hardline sober at that point? Like, were you like, I'm not doing anything?
I had to completely quit everything for about 2 years, and then now I'll have like a drink or two here and there, but like really like 2 max. I just feel ill after that. I don't even have fun.
Yeah, I had that one little shot of bourbon, and it's like, I'm good. That's all I needed. You know, I mean, cause in a different way, you know, I was in the military, and like, I don't know, anybody who's in the military knows you drink a lot. You know, you party a lot, maybe not to the level that you did, but it's just at this point in my life, man, I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm sensitive to it. I don't know. I have a couple of beers, and I'm like, oh, my stomach, man, it's so messed up.
And you
know?
feel fat and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Right. But so moving forward into that, you know, you've had all this experience. I mean, it's been a wild ass road. You know, you're in the punk band. You got your teeth kicked in, near death experience that way. I'm sure you've got mounds of stories, and maybe one day you'll get to share more. And moving forward, you went into Muay Thai, and so obviously you're in fitness now. So you talked about Muay Thai and how that bridges you into fitness and to what you do now. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, like fitness and business, right? You know, some of these things that, you know, are a pretty big part of your life, and maybe even, you know, bring up your wife, you know, like how you met her, and like, you know, share her story a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because I know she's a very important part of your life. So
Right.
Joe's such a softie. He loves to ask how people met their wives.
Yeah. That's a good question.
I love it.
I love
I
him.
know.
I mean,
He's so adorable. I love him.
I'm a family guy.
I think it's a good topic to talk about too, because if you think about like what health is, most people just think, you know, you just eat and exercise and eat right and exercise. And that's cool. It's at the forefront of your successes. But I always see it as like a 4-legged chair, right? You've got the physical, the mental, the social health, which would pertain to your relationship, and then the spiritual health, right?
Yes.
And when they study centurions, these parts of the world where people tend to live to be 100 plus, or have the larger populations of those, for a long time they were like, what's the one food they all eat? And they're like, oh, they don't all eat the same food.
Yeah.
Well, what's the one thing they're all active. It must be that. And it's just hyper focusing on one thing. But later, as time evolved, when they studied these blue zones, was they found that everyone had all 4 elements, right?
Interesting.
So I think it's a good thing to talk about, because
The blue zone is like Greece. Like there's these areas that people are super, super healthy. Like,
Okinawa, Greece. There's one in the States. There's one in Canada, California, Greece, parts of Italy, Okinawa.
where people live very long and are very healthy.
Yeah, I think like Argentina and stuff too, right?
Yeah, there's some down there.
Yeah, I remember them talking about. I had a nutrition class at MTSU. They were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I kind of talked about, the Muay Thai I went too far, lost too much weight, got skinny fat, and then I hired a trainer. So I think I already covered that earlier. So yeah, my wife, I was living in a punk house in Portland, Oregon. It's probably like 5 or 6 of us. You ever seen that show, The Young Ones? Big mistake. 80s. You know who Rick Mail is?
I do not.
Drop Dead Fred. God,
I've probably seen him. I'm bad with like names and stuff like that.
I'm just fucking old.
Or that, yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
To be fair, wait, you said you were 49 or 39?
42.
42. Yeah. So he's 34, you're 42, I'm 28. So this happens a lot. We're like, right.
Yeah.
We're all spread out.
Yeah. So anyhow, scratch that part. We can cut that out.
Hey, man, we got some people in like your age bracket though. They'll probably be like, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, no, don't. I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. So it's like this non-functional punk house full of rats.
Yeah.
And, people bringing home other people from like 30 people from the bar, like almost every night at like 3 a.m. And, you hate your roommates and it's just a shithole. So anyway, I had this roommate and at the time I was competing in Muay Thai and she told me, she's like, hey, my friend Angela, it's my wife now. She thinks you're really cute. She wants to come to your fight. And I was like, hey, that girl's cute, but look, I've got this fight tomorrow. Like I cannot like think about her or talk to her, like I'd love if she came and maybe I could hang out afterwards. And I kind of just forgot about it because you're focused on the fight.
You're like, I don't need any distractions.
Yeah. And like, I'm doing this thing. Yeah. I'm scared. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I might get hurt. Or I might hurt someone. I don't know. Yeah. So I remember like a couple days later, I was like, hey, let me get that girl's number. So I called her. I was like, hey, so my roommate, her name was Nikki. I go, so Nikki, our mutual friend, she said that, you wanted to like hang out sometime. She goes, I never said that. I was like, oh shit, it's fucking awkward. And I was like, Nikki, she's fucking lying. And then I was like, well, do you want to hang out sometime? She's like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then it just kind of went on from there. So
that's so funny.
Our relationship was based on lies immediately, but it turned out. It turned out all right.
It was based on lies.
But it revealed the truth.
Yeah.
And y'all are meant
It
to
worked
be.
out,
Yeah, it worked out pretty
Hey,
good.
you turned that around real quick. You counterpunched real nice. Yeah.
So how long have you been together?
Married for 5, together for 10.
Nice, man. What kind of impact has she been on your life and everything you're doing,
Man, I'm a real like anxious driven person. I struggle to calm down and be present. And she's the complete opposite. She's just kind of like, you meet her, you're like, is she like stoned or something? Like not like stupid or anything, just kind of like so chill.
Dude.
So it's kind of an anchor for me. Like, all right, this is my yin and yang type of thing. I need to like come down to her level sometimes,
That's very important. Yeah, because that's the same dynamic we have. Yeah. She's like this calm ocean. I'm just like a fucking fireball. I'm like always very anxious driven, just like, oh my God, like, oh, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And she's just like super, it's necessary to have that kind of balance. People say opposites attract, and I don't think it means like two people that are totally different, but I think in those kinds of ways, yes, they do. I mean, they're perfect for each other. Because if Lydia was like me, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be nuts, you know what I'm saying? But like we complement each other so well, because I add that fire to her life, but she also is that calm for me. So it's perfect. Mm-hmm. And it's necessary, man. I mean, was talking about this recently about relationships, right? And, past relationships, like, there's always been women that want to change you. Yeah. And like, a lot of women agree with this. They're like, yeah, it's for some reason they just want to change guys. They want to change them so much. And I'm like, well, when I met Lydia, she didn't want to change anything about me. The only change that happened is she made me be a better version of myself.
Right.
Because of her, I want to be the better. Mm-hmm. So I'm still who I am, just a better version of that. And that's the key right there. Just finding someone that accepts that and loves that, but like just improves you as an individual, right? And then creating that balance together. And it's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's the same. I don't want to change anything about her and vice versa. She's never asked me to stop doing anything I like or being a certain way.
Oh, yeah, dude. What does she do out there?
Right now, she's cleaning houses. So Angela has rheumatoid arthritis, which is a terrible, terrible autoimmune disease that affects your joints. And it's not like regular arthritis that old people get. It's
or me from Motorcycle Rex.
Yeah. It's an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So a lot of things she's done in the past have just like really hurt her body. Even lifting weights, she doesn't respond like a normal person. Like her connective tissues just get inflamed.
That sucks, man.
Yeah. So she does what she can. So she's cleaning houses right now. but she was doing eyelashes like
Just trying not to hurt so much.
yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. She was doing like the esthetician stuff, like eyelashes and stuff like that. But that just being in that position, kind of like a tattoo artist, it just hurt her body. So
Is there anything that she made? I don't know if there's any kind of like, well, because I was looking at like doing, eventually I'd like to be able to go like to Colombia. I thought the guy did it already.
Stem cells.
Go do stem cells like Colombia. And he was in a motorcycle wreck a couple years after I was, and he listens to the podcast, and he actually stopped through. He's moving from Florida to California, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to stop by and hang out for a night or two, And I was like, "All right, cool." So he trained with me, and we talked, and I learned his story. And he's like, "Man, if you get the opportunity," he's like, "I did a GoFundMe, spent like 33 grand on stem cell shots in Colombia." And he's like, "Insane the changes." So
I keep hearing that's the place to go. And I know I had some powerlifting coaches and buddies in Oregon who were just like the most like reckless lifters, really strong, but they fuck themselves up a lot. So they've had plenty of that treatment too. But we tried it with her. We went to a place in Austin, like $3,600 and didn't do shit.
I was about to say, I've heard commercials about stem cell places in Nashville. They actually start the commercial off by saying like it's not the controversial version that you hear about, like something.
yeah, but apparently that's the way
That's
to
the
go.
legit shit though.
Yeah, that's the best is like going overseas to like Panama or like that's where like celebs go and stuff. Apparently,
But has she been able to find any remedies, or so she just pretty much is in pain?
In pain, and rheumatoid comes with fatigue as well. In fact, the most affected joint was her right wrist, to where there was no connective tissue there at all. So she just got it fused.
Damn.
She's in a cast right now. Like they go in and they shave off the remaining connective tissues, and then they take the distal end of the forearm bones and the hand, and they kind of zigzag it and then just mash it together, staple it together, so it fuses together. So she can only really turn her hand that way now, which later is going to affect her shoulder and her neck and her elbow because she's going to have to move differently. But it was either that or live with the pain and inflammation and the medications she had to take for just basically her wrist. So now she doesn't have to take the medications, at least. That had like terrible side effects.
Screw the medications, man. Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I just want to ask in general, has she ever tried like any cannabis type products?
Yeah. So we've tried everything, man. Like, she's got, with certain autoimmune issues, you have to have a real pretty strict diet, right? Anti-inflammatory, no nightshades, no grains, no dairy, no sugar, no cruciferous vegetables even. And, if I knew anyone that didn't have an autoimmune disease that ate like her, I'm like, dude, you got a serious problem. Like, you got some like nutritional issues. You got to overcome these issues with food.
Yeah.
But, she has to eat that way. And I've seen her like accidentally eat gluten. Like her body just respond. Like she'll balloon up like her guts and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Her fingers and stuff. It's like noticeable. So she's autoimmune paleo protocol for autoimmune issues. It basically just makes sure it doesn't get worse is all it does.
Well, at least she's got you there for her.
Yeah.
We were talking.
You're big and strong, and you can carry her around if you need to.
Right.
That's why you do it.
I think when Rachel was here, the girl that was with her, she was like a dietitian, right, or a nutritionist or something. You guys were talking.
Oh yeah. The Organi
Nanny.
Yeah. Michelle, I think her name was.
But I was telling her that Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson, she went on like the carnivore diet, and she had to have like her ankles replaced at like 15, I think, because of rheumatoid arthritis.
Yep.
And it was like a miracle fucking cure for her. But she can't even eat greens or anything. Like she's strictly steak only.
Yeah, it works for a lot of people. She's tried that, and for about a week she felt okay, but then she just felt even worse.
Oh shit. Yeah, everybody's different, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody's different.
So crazy.
Lightheaded, and just she likes to eat at least a few times a day, and not just once. So just eating steak a few times a day was getting pretty expensive, and just wasn't working for her.
Nothing adds up.
That's rough.
Hey man, she's gonna overcome it, man. Or at least just keep rolling forward.
Yeah,
We wish her the best. We send her all of our fortitude.
Yeah, thanks.
So, and I look forward to meeting her eventually, man. Next time y'all come through. So that being said, y'all are out there in Wimberley. Elaborate just a little bit more on your business to you, like why you're so passionate about it. And, I want to know what you're looking forward to, like what your relentless pursuit would be.
Yeah, man. Well, I started coaching people because I wanted to help people overcome similar situations I was in myself. So I had this kind of relatable story to folks, right? I tried and failed multiple times with various diets and like going to the extremes with nutrition and like training plans and just being like orthorexic.
Yeah.
Right. You familiar with that term, orthorexic? It's a good term that people should know in the nutrition or just fitness industry in general. It's the obsession with health and healthy food and exercise.
Yeah.
Too far, right? You've got sedentary, overweight, eating junk food, not good. You've got fit and healthy and balanced. Then you've got orthorexia.
You see that a lot.
That's balance, baby.
You will see that probably a lot in the sport.
You see it in the sport.
Yeah.
You see it in, well, we were talking about some Paul Saladino earlier.
Yeah.
I think he promotes that with a lot of people. I think he's got a good message and he helps a lot of people. But at the same time, there's these people that are developing this poor relationship with food in the process to where they think that they're going to die if they eat like rice.
Yeah.
Or something, right? Crazy. That's
Like they
terrible.
probably look at me eating donuts. They're like, "You might be doing all these burpees. You're about to fucking have a heart attack tonight."
Yeah.
They probably think extreme. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to the extreme. So
Yeah.
I was there. That was me for a while. So with the weight loss and then kind of overcoming those extremes. So essentially with business, I started out in a small shitty house, just doing it off an iPhone and like a shitty laptop.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was fun for a while, but then kind of, you don't want to settle for stagnancy.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to have 40 to 50 clients at all times. And now that we've got assistant coaches in our ecosystem, we've got more than that. And, really I want to build a brand that's sustainable and it's fun for people to work at, but we lead with impact, right? We want to create as much impact as possible. And you can't do that if you don't connect authentically with the client.
Without
If
a
you're
doubt.
just sets, reps, and macros guy, you're like, cool. What's your name again? All right, well, try the sets, reps, and macros, which every fucking dipshit is doing out there with like a spreadsheet. You're not
Yes,
going to
dude.
create impact.
We were just talking about this earlier.
You're not going to create the kind of impact you're trying to create. Your clients, they buy coaches, not coaching.
Yes.
They're not here to just get sold some other fucking copy and paste program, right?
Yes.
They've heard all the bullshit. They've tried all the bullshit. There's lots of conflicting information out there. They get paralysis analysis. They get overwhelmed. They try this and that, and then they just feel like a failure. And they literally believe that they cannot succeed because they've failed so many times. The problem is they've just gotten the wrong information and they've been fed the wrong bullshit.
Yes.
So my objective is to clear through that clutter and get straight down to the facts and lead with education, authentic connection so that we can create the impact we're trying to create.
Of course, and you grow with that client. Because they'll go to one coach after another that's feeding them the same bullshit. So then they lose hope because they're like, well, like none of this is working for me, but they all been taught the same thing.
Yeah.
And you talk about that authentic connection, man, and that's one thing that's so valuable is like having the space, right? I had a couple clients run into each other, between sessions, and they were like, man, it's like I come get my ass kicked and I go through a therapy session, but like we got this relationship now. They're like become my friends, but then they trust me, and it's like, hey, this isn't necessarily working. Okay, well, how can we tweak this a little bit, and you actually take the time to like sit with them and like write some stuff down. I mean, yeah, you could charge a shit ton of money and have like all these online clients and just send them the same kind of staple bullshit, or you can have like, it's like growing a brand, right? And like with the apparel brand, right? It's like, yeah, I could pay a shit ton of money for marketing and grow fast and make really trendy stuff. And people will drop in and buy a couple of items that they're overpaying for and then move on to the next trendy thing. Or I grow slowly and promote something that matters. And the people that are buying apparel 3 years ago are buying apparel today, and they bought every order since. Right. And then that number adds up. You know what I'm saying? Organic growth is key, man.
In the podcast too, same exact thing.
Yeah.
We talked about having like how people have like OnlyFans or Dan Bilzerian or somebody like that on. Or
Yeah.
it's just like somebody with an actual positive.
Yeah. Your clients want to be heard and understood too at the end of the day. They think they're showing up for like a fat loss goal or sets, reps, and macros. They think that's just the thing. That's the solution to my problem is like these like particular macros and particular program, right?
Yeah.
And that's not their fault at all. It's what they've been fed on social media. They don't live this, right? They have a different job. And they have different concerns throughout the day. Like we live this, right? It's our education is what we're interested in. But when you get them to open up a little bit and ask them why they're actually doing this, right? Surface level stuff, fat loss, right? Deeper. It comes down to everyone's seeking like a sense of accomplishment, confidence, happiness, right? And they want to look and feel better. They want to play with their kids. They want to play with their grandkids. They want to be confident with their shirt off, right? When I was my fattest, I didn't even take my shirt off in front of my own fucking girlfriend. I was that ashamed of my fat, disgusting body.
Dude, I feel you. I've been there in certain situations. I mean, where I'm just like, you kind of like check, like, oh man, I'm fucking boobs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You like feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
I've been there in the past, man. That's a tough feeling. I mean, maybe some people don't give a shit, but like, I don't know. I for sure hell fucking care. But I will say, like, everybody cares.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. If they say they don't, they're lying. It's a smokescreen. But like I said, they want to be heard and understood. So if you take this person that's just like, they're hard to dig into, it's because we mostly work with men, right? And it's hard to get some men to open up because they feel like it's like a weakness thing, right? But if like you and I talk, we could talk about like some personal stuff, right? And I think it's fair to say that we're reasonably strong, jacked dudes, right? And people might look at us. Remember when we were at Big Tech's gym in Austin, and that guy was like, "Bro, you guys walk out of like a Viking scene or something," right? Right? Like people see us and they're like, "Holy shit, look at these guys." I can talk to you about like my feelings or shit like that. It's like
there's strength and vulnerability. That's what people fail to realize. It's like either you could be one extreme or the other, right? You can be too tough,
right?
Alpha guy, or you can be this really emotional wreck. But having balance between the two is actually true.
Yeah. So connecting with your clients as to why they want to do these things, you can remind them of that because they're going to get lost down the road. They're going to feel like, they lost 10 pounds and they didn't lose any weight for like a couple of weeks. Like, oh, I'm failing. It's not working. It's like, dude, you lost 10 pounds and you've kept it off.
Yeah.
That's just massive progress. And the fact that you're still here and you're getting stronger in the gym, your clothes are fitting better.
Yeah.
That's all progress. So you can bring them back in with those things. Like, remember what you told me when we first started? Like, you really want to do this for X, Y, and Z. You're bringing them back in with that North Star.
Yeah. And it's just, and that's really important, man, rather than just telling them like, it's just black and white. There's a lot of gray there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they're building that, and like over time too, they trust you, right? And they'll actually tell you like, hey man, I'll be honest, like I've been fucking up. Because I've learned that over time too, when you try to stay like this run of the mill coach and you're set somebody up with a process, right? You're like, it has to be this way. And they're not telling you all like where they're fucking up. Yeah. But over time when they trust you and you build that connection, you're like, dude, I'll be honest, like I've not really been on top of my shit. And I'm like, I know. I mean, I know this. Right. You know what I'm saying? So how do we fix that? How do we approach it? What can we do? I mean, it's just everybody's got their approach. Like you probably approach things a little bit differently than I do, but I think it's very similar. And it all circles back around to impact because I don't want them just to like get fit. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to make you look aesthetic. Just to make you look aesthetic. I'm here to help you improve your life overall. I help you feel better mentally, physically, all those things that tie in together. And like, just like this brand, like the main goal is creating the biggest impact we can. Mm-hmm. That's comes with the growth, right? So I think it's, when it comes down to what you said, I mean, we're right in line on the same path with all that.
I think the best coaching is reactive, right?
Yeah.
You can't just buy a program and hope that it's going to like solve your problems if you're an overweight, busy dude. Yeah. Right. Reactive meaning, let's say we do an assessment and we say, hey, this is where you're at right now. Let's meet you here. And then we'll see where it takes us. Yeah. Right. And you either respond or you don't to certain things. Eventually you won't. We're highly adaptive creatures, right? We have to adjust things. There's periodized models to training and nutrition. It comes in cycles, right? So you're monitoring these things and you have to change things up on clients sometimes. And that freaks them out. Like, well, we're doing these things. Like, but remember you had the pain or it wasn't really working out anymore. So we have to change these things. So that's the reactive. You can't say we're going to do this for exactly 12 weeks. Like, what if that person's like losing sleep, going through bouts of insomnia because their life's like really high stress, right? Like we've got to change the plan, right? Yeah. We've got to help you pivot around that. That's a part of your life. And if you don't have a plan that helps you pivot around that to at least maintain a little bit of momentum throughout those bouts in life, you're destined to fail, right? I have to do this thing for 12 weeks. The program says 12 weeks, but week 7, my life is really shit. I'm sleeping 4 hours a night. Yeah. Right. So I really like to try and take this like other 23 hours of the day approach too, right? Your hour in the gym, awesome. What the fuck's going on the other 23 hours of the day? Are you sleeping okay? Do you manage your stress? Are you shitting more than once a week, right? Or every other day? Do you wake up with a fucking boner? I talk about this stuff all the time. And it's really funny because you'll get guys that come in, they have the goal and I'll start talking to them about like stress and like, how do you manage that? How do you sleep? Are you waking up with a hard on? Like, how often are you
That's
shitting?
the first question I ask them when they walk in.
Yeah.
You getting hard ons?
Yeah. Can I see it?
And they're like, oh God.
It's the first question. Drop them.
But you know, they're like, "Well, bro, I came here to lose 50 pounds, and we're like talking about poop and boners. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, yeah, man. Like,
Favorite thing.
health, right? Like health and longevity, and
But that's important.
right?
Those are signs. I mean, you know, I get all my.
Can you guys just for like elementary level? Why is that the first question you ask? Because to the non trained ear, that's like seriously though. Why are we talking about this?
Go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, awesome. So, you know, meeting people where they're at with nutrition and movement and like making a program that suits them and their experience level and their schedule is one thing. But if, for example, you're not sleeping well, you're not going to recover from the stimulus we're asking you to do. Your hormones are going to be fucked up, which leads to the sexual issues, brain fog. Stress will do the exact same thing. And what's around the corner typically from high stress or chronically elevated cortisol, stress hormone, like you're not feeling that good. You don't have the dopamine being really released in your brain. You're going to seek it through what? Like junk food, maybe? Alcohol? You don't really feel like moving. So you're lethargic, right? So those are the proactive ways to get people to maintain activity, but also just health and longevity and health span. Longevity is kind of a strange word to me, honestly, because it's like, well, you just want to have a bunch of birthdays, or do you want to feel great as long as you can? There's a difference, right? You can be withering away, or you can extend your health span. So
The goal is to die as young as possible, or die late.
Wait, what was that?
Fuck, what's his name?
What was that one?
Too much black metal. Die late as young as possible.
Right. Yeah. So, ultimately quality of life thing. So a lot of people, they've been living this life of like 4 hours of sleep, high stress life, and they don't even realize that they can feel better, right? It's become the norm for them, right? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine on 4 hours of sleep. Like, dude, that's going to shorten your life. And it's also why you can't stay on top of your diet, because you're seeking dopamine. Right, you're going for the crispy, the crunchy, salty. You're going for the sweet. You're going for the soft. All the textures and the flavors. So, nutritional habits in particular, I usually take like a back end approach, like a core root reason that we're doing. Like you have these habits around food, right? And it's usually one of those three things. But also just the health and longevity aspect. You're not going to live very long if you don't sleep well, manage your stress, and your hormones are all fucked up because of it. That makes sense?
Yeah, so is the waking up in the morning without a hormone, is that a sign of like low testosterone, for example?
Could be, yeah. Or just high stress or poor quality sleep.
Gotcha.
I have one thing. I've got a connection here. The guy's 10 minutes away. Elite Aesthetics, but he does blood work and everything, and it's pretty easy to set up. If you need TRT, he'll get you on that, but he'll do a whole panel. And so that's one of the first things I have, like almost all my clients do. Like if they're willing to do it, like, hey, go check this guy out, get some blood work done, and they typically always do it. And it reveals a lot of things to them. But it's really good to understand like where you need to be, what you have going on hormonally and all that. So, yeah, man, there's just so many little details that a lot of coaches probably aren't suggesting, right? And it's always you talk about like, oh, I got to stick to this 12 weeks, and there's all kinds of programs out there. I'm not going to name them that are pretty popular. They're like, do this for this amount of days, and if you fucking fall off at day 70, you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, like, learn how to have discipline, right? Like change some habits throughout your day. Like set up little rituals that are going to improve you in little aspects, but you don't need to just follow this program like that. I mean, because you got to think like you talk about sustainability, right? And some of these programs aren't sustainable. Actually, a vast majority of them aren't.
If it's not sustainable, it's crap. I mean, if you can't keep the results that you achieved, it was ultimately ineffective.
Yeah. You're
like, no, it worked. It worked. I'm like, but you didn't keep the results. But it worked.
Yeah. And so,
for how long?
But I did like this burn the boats challenge, and I'm going to bring that back. Something I set up like last minute, and like people were like really stoked about it, and even some people shared, and they're like, yeah, this opposed to that, right? This is something that's sustainable for your life, right? And that's like the key right there is set up people for success for the rest of their life, and it helps them get disciplined over time, right? And then you get these programs out there like you can accomplish this in this many weeks, and there's all these unrealistic expectations out there, And I get a client, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to promise you that this is going to work from you. Everybody's different. We're going to see how you react to these things. We're going to give a little time, and then we're going to may have to tweak some things. So don't expect this to be the magic pill. But we need to be consistent in order to figure it out, and then we'll change things from there. This is a journey, man.
You mean it's like a process? That sounds difficult.
Yeah, I know. But it's crazy because people don't understand that. I mean, it's all watered down now.
You're on and off your fitness goals because you view yourself as being on or off instead of making them a part of your life. right? So like, hey, I'm doing the diet, I'm doing the gym thing again. Here's the program that I downloaded. I heard everyone's doing the challenge. Like, I'll tell you, 75 days isn't going to fix 750 days of shit habits.
Yeah.
30 days definitely isn't going to fix 30 years of shit habits.
Dude, that's a fact.
I still don't know which one you guys are talking about. I'm trying to put together.
You know, and I'm not necessarily hating on it. I mean,
I get what you're saying, though. You
know
can't do that forever. I mean, it's just not. It's just not.
You can't, and if you can, like you're
a god.
A 0.1% of the people that maybe follow it that are going to do it forever.
You get the people that'll say, well, it's just going to get me started. And like, that's a good idea, right? I think that would be awesome. But 99% of those people end up doing the challenge over and over again. Like, so is it still getting you started? Like, what's happening in between challenge 1 and challenge 9?
Well, I had some clients that wanted to do it. It's you know, past clients, and they're like, you should do this 75 harder with us. I was like, I don't need that. I'm sorry. I mean, I've got my track. I don't need that in my life. Mm-hmm. They're like, what? You know, and I'm like, no, I don't. That's not necessary for me. But thanks. You know, and like that's I just know. I know how to stay on top of my shit. My shit only. I don't need to follow that. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
It's
you made it part of
unnecessary.
lifestyle. It's like brushing your teeth or putting your shoes on. It's you eat a certain way, you exercise a certain way, and that's really how you succeed. Consistency plus time equals progress.
Yes. And then like learning to actually, rather than it being this thing you have to do, this thing you love.
Right.
And I was talking about that with my buddy earlier. Like you get people that maybe they compete or they do this and then like, I got to get to the gym because I got to get to this goal or I got to get to the gym. And it's like almost like this thing that's kind of like, ugh. And to me, like, dude, I fucking love going back there and lifting my ass off and then doing 1, 2, 300 burpees in a row. Don't ask me why, but I find it fucking enjoyable. Like there's a genuine love for it and it helps my mind and everything. And like, that's the point. I'm like, dude, like, honestly, that's a pretty beautiful thing is to like finally to actually fall in love with just the action of doing it rather than looking at it as like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And like, I want to help people get there, you know, and but it's all mindset and it's a journey to get to where you find that kind of love for it all.
Yeah. And you get to a place where you're reasonably lean, muscular, strong, healthy, fit, active. You're not months and months away from a goal, right?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to drop 10, 15 pounds of body fat, I'd be pretty ripped.
Yeah.
Right. That's not a huge goal for me.
Yeah.
Right. If I wanted to go into performance mode and get stronger and eat more, maybe get a bit of size, it's not a huge I'm a few months away from it.
Exactly.
Right. And you have to remember there's these peaks and valleys, like I was saying earlier. You can't live in peak performance or peak aesthetics all the time. No. Right. And people don't understand that too. Some people don't understand that at all. Hey, you want to get sub 10% body fat and walk around like that all year round? Good luck hating yourself and fantasizing about food and nobody wants to hang out with you because you can't eat. You can't go out to dinner with them.
You're like grumpy.
Yeah. And your girlfriend, like you can't fuck her anymore. Right. But you look good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've got this other end of the spectrum where it's like you're dare I say the fat power lifter. Right? Where you're just inflamed and you're just eating whatever the hell you want and you just lift heavy all the time.
Yeah.
You're not only inflamed from your diet and being overweight, but your joints are inflamed from just chronic, like massive heavy lifting. No matter what you do, it's just heavy, heavy, heavy.
And you're probably on some kind of protocol that's burning you the complete out. And then you got to start from scratch because your body's just like, what the hell did you do to me?
So look, what most people need, busy parents who just want to look and feel better and live longer, they don't need a rigorous 5-day-a-week, 2 hours in the gym, bodybuilding routine and a chicken and rice diet.
Facts.
They need something that suits them and their schedule, their experience level, and a way of eating that allows them to go on date nights and have family dinners without really worrying about it.
I love it, man. I mean, that's 110% correct, man. And I'm glad to, know you're we're very like-minded when it comes to our goals with our clients and everything. Like I'm right on that alley. So I love to hear that, man. And, there's no wonder that you've had such success with it and that you're going to have more. Thanks. I think it's a beautiful thing you've done, man. I love watching your journey and I love watching your content. And I know you're kicking ass, dude. I mean, if I didn't have my thing, I'd be like, yo, come on, be on the team, bro. But no, I got my stuff going on. No, but you always got my support, bro. Like,
Thanks,
truly.
Thanks. We are hiring another assistant coach probably next month.
Team RP over here.
Well, isn't awesome.
It wasn't a job offer.
Shit. No, man. I know. Hey, if you're out in the area, keep an eye out for this guy, people.
Yeah.
You might
It's
have
all
an
online
opportunity.
too. All online.
It's all online. Hell yeah, man. That's awesome, dude. I think you kind of said it already, you know, because impact's the most important, right? What would you say your relentless pursuit is now? Like moving forward, what is your relentless pursuit? Obviously impact, and what else?
So recently, are we talking about like a core value or pursuing
Just in
anything
general,
I want to do?
just in general, yeah. Like, you know, you get somebody that's like, I want to be the best father I can be. And like, I can agree with that. Right. Or whatever.
Right, right. I've got a couple things going on with business and personal. They're all a little different. So I've scaled my business to a degree where I don't have to work on it a whole lot all week anymore, right? Which is cool. I manage the team, do the content, chat with folks about signing up, and that's about it. I'm not in it all the time. And I got that through what? Hiring coaches and mentorships, right? Big key note here, by the way. If you want to succeed at something, you're not going to figure it out on your own typically.
Yeah.
Like something big, right? Like a big fitness goal or building a business. Every successful athlete, every successful entrepreneur has had mentorships. They've invested into it, right?
Facts.
100% of them. So I've invested in multiple mentorships, and recently I started working for a business coaching mentorship. So now I'm actively coaching coaches on how to build and scale their businesses online to 10, 20, 30K months. And it's fun. I feel like I'm a part of a team. It doesn't feel like a job. I just feel like I'm part of a team, like working towards the same mission.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about it is if you think about it, I've got this really long arm, like this long reach to where I've helped, I don't even know how many people improve their lives through fitness and nutrition over the last decade. But now I'm helping coaches help more people by building their business. So if I have like 60 students and they all get 100 clients from my help, they wouldn't have otherwise gotten.
Yeah.
What's 60 times 100? 6,000? No, I don't know. That's 600.
And think about all the people that they're having conversations with that you
exactly.
can't even track. I mean, the ripple is insane.
Yeah. So I've got this like super long reach in leading with impact.
Yeah.
Kind of this behind the curtains thing. Like their clients will never know who I am.
That's pretty awesome though.
So I like that. I'm kind of behind the scenes, and that's a really good feeling. But then on a personal note, I need to just, I need to be more present and, turn the fucking brain off sometimes, which is a massive, that's a huge challenge. Like, especially running your own business. Like no one's telling you to go home, clock out, like, hey, good job today. You're good for the day. Like,
yes, dude.
I don't talk to myself that way. I'm like, you fucking pussy, you didn't do enough.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have a ritual at home where phone is off and in the drawer in my office, and I have a blue lightning bolt light, neon light. So when that's on, office hours. When it's off, office hours off.
Yeah.
Right. And I have these kind of French doors that close. So my ritual is like lights off, doors are closed, phones in the drawer.
Nice.
And I can't always stick to it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. And like I said, you're trying to grow, and it's very important to you what you're doing. And I totally get that, man. Like here, I think about it all the time. And I've had some harsh moments where I'm like, fuck, dude, like my daughter's right in front of me. My brain's over here. But this is what it's all for. This is my purpose right here. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And you kind of feel this guilt. And so you got to have like that. You got to gut check yourself every once in a while. Be like, hey, focus, be present, man. It's a really difficult thing to do, but at least if you can remind yourself, right? Just having that self-awareness is the key, I think, because it's going to happen,
One thing that's helped me, and maybe you could benefit from this. Have you heard of the Pomodoro method?
I have not.
No. So it's a scheduling method for self-employed entrepreneurs. Okay. It's basically 20 to 30 minutes of work with a 5 to 10 minute break for 2 to 4 hours. And it doesn't sound like a long time, but if you give yourself those little breaks, you get way more shit done in a shorter amount of time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Especially like if you allow those breaks instead of,
Yeah.
because if you're the kind of person that's going to kind of get distracted for a second anyway, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
Instead of just being like, that's my 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, now back to it.
So I'll shadow box or something in between sales calls, or I'll go, compound bow in the backyard for a little bit. And then if you take that further, I have a 3x3, 3 main objectives a day, 3 larger objectives for the week, and 3 huge objectives for the quarter. So as long as I get those 3 things done in a day, I've stacked 3 important victories, and I'm not lost in a bunch of little shit and getting frustrated or distracted. Mm-hmm. As long as I get 3 bigger things done in a week, I'm like, that's a pretty good week. Like if I didn't, like, where did I go wrong? And if I find myself like, I've already done the 3, I should add more. I'm like, dude, just, you know where that leads.
Yeah.
You feel busy, you feel productive, but at the end of the day, you're just stressed out and you didn't get any more done.
And then you go overboard. Yeah. And then it's not really as productive as you'd hope for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Less is more.
Man, I love that, dude. So it sounds like you got great goals on both ends, man. Thanks. And I think that's something like, you know, it's good to focus on as far as like with this opportunity you have now. Like, yeah, you want to create an impact, but through this business, this new job you got, right? Like bigger impact through that. So it works in correlation with each other. And then personally, yeah, I think it's a great thing, man. Stay more present. And I took notes on your methods and stuff because I'm going to utilize that in my day to day. What's funny is my brother Mike, he's actually giving me, I want to get back into playing guitar. So he's giving me this guitar. He retired from the military. And he's giving me one he's had for a long time, and I'm going to have it here.
Nice.
So it's like, perfect, dude. Pomodoro, like sit there and fuck around for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
that
take
is
your mind
perfect.
off it.
Get back at it. Yeah, get back at it. Totally switch. That's a totally different gear than work, right? So
The shadow boxing is what I'm going to think about.
Yeah.
Just a couple minutes to shadow box, couple rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Gets the endorphins going and
get in the ice bath.
yeah.
Let's do another 3, 4, 5 hours, boys. You ready?
Yeah,
Should we had the cameras?
Man, I still got to work in the morning. no, but honestly, I think that was a great podcast, dude. Awesome.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come out here, share your story, share some crazy stories, and just kind of share where you're going, man. I mean, we got to know a lot about you. The guests got to know, the audience got to know a lot about you. And yeah, man, really appreciate you coming. Anything else you want to leave off with?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I enjoy talking about other things. You know, most podcasts is like nutrition and training and mindset and lifestyle. And that's cool, right? That's what we all do. It's what we're here for. It's like my profession. It's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But yeah, just talking about other stuff, like this is the Ethan a lot of people don't know.
Exactly.
They maybe seen some pictures like, oh yeah, he played in a band. But when you get into like, no, that shit was fucking dark and I overcame it.
Exactly.
Like, that's the fun stuff.
And that plays into that, but that plays into the mindset and lifestyle.
Yeah.
It plays in, without getting too specific, your story plays into all that. And
It's
that's
authentic.
the cool thing, man.
It's really what your life was.
Yeah, it's authentic.
Because we cover nutrition, mindset, lifestyle, business, all of it.
Right.
But we told your story to get there.
Right.
You know?
And I think you know, most people can't relate to my story, right? But when they hear something like that, they're like, man, that guy was homeless, living in a meth house, eating dog food, and then lost over 100 pounds, and then was skinny fat, and then he built a business, and now he's jacked and he's helping people. And I can't lose 20 fucking pounds. Like,
Right.
what the fuck's wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, if I can do all of that, which I don't think it's some fantastic story, it's just me, it's normal, like for me, right?
Yeah.
To some people, it's crazy.
It's your experience.
But if I can do all of that, right? 165 pounds, 320 pounds, that's 6'3", methed out, drugs, alcohol, partying, eating dog food, homeless, to becoming a trainer, fitness changing my life, and now helping hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yes.
You can fucking eat a
You're
little better
fucking
and go to the gym
capable.
a couple times a week.
Yes. Yep. I love it, man. That's 110%. And at the end of the day, they may not be able to relate to your whole story, but maybe someone had their ass beat by a few
Everybody.
people. A lot of people, like I went through some addiction.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't eating dog food, but I definitely had an addiction issue there for a little while. You know, all these different things, people can find some relation there.
It's a struggle.
But at the end of the day, they can see that, damn, this guy's had one hell of a road and look at him now.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the key aspect, dude. So good shit, man. Proud of
Everybody
you.
relates to the struggle.
Proud of you, Ethan.
The struggle, big S, everybody relates to.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming, Logan. Appreciate you. And until next time.
that's it.
Peace.
Good shit, dude.
Cool. That'd be a good one.
Good time.